Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. What I want to talk about tonight is, of course, as usual, the Second Amendment. But I want to speak about a very specific part of the Second Amendment. You know, so many of us all the time scream, shall not be infringed, shall not be infringed, shall not be infringed, which kind of makes us look like a little bit of loonies sometimes. But there's a reason we shout that. Because it's actually written in the amendment. It's very specific. The government shall not infringe upon our right to keep and bear arms. Period. So why is it so many people are okay with some infringements? There's some people who say, well, some infringements are bad. Like, oh, if they take away bump stock, that's bad. But then there's other infringements that are far worse that they're okay with. I never have understood that. Now, I'm someone who yells, no compromise, no compromise, no compromise. And like I say, that does sometimes make me sound like a loon. And I'm not saying I'm not a loon, but I don't think I'm that loony when it comes to this. Because the topic I want to talk about, the infringement that everyone seems to be okay with, including big gun channels and big organizations like the NRA, etc., is background checks. Now, this is where people really think I'm crazy because they're like, you don't want background checks? You think just anyone who's, of age should be able to go in and buy a gun? And I say of age because I don't want to say a specific age because I'll piss people off because I don't think people that are under the age of 25 should be allowed to leave their houses, much less do anything else. At least not without adult supervision. They should have to have a note for their parents to even just drive to work and back as far as I'm concerned. So let's just say of age. So people say, you think that anyone of age should just be able to walk into a gun shop and buy a gun with no background check? And I say, of course I do. Because background checks don't stop anybody from committing a crime. They have very little, if any. There's never been any proven effect on crime rates from background checks. There's never been any proof that background checks have lowered crime rates. Period. No evidence of it. Yet everyone seems to be okay with background checks. And yet background checks are the largest infringement on our rights. Background checks are the government telling us who can and who can't buy a gun. How can you have bigger infringement than that? How can the government more infringe on your rights than telling you if you can or can't buy a gun? Every time you go buy one, they want to make sure it's okay for you to have one. That's a huge infringement. I don't understand why people are okay with that. And it's not just people that can't legally own a gun that get denied. If you look at all the denials that the ATF is so proud of, that NICS is so proud of, like, oh, we deny this many people every year. When you look at it, almost all of those are overturned on appeal, if they're granted an appeal. And at times of high volume, they don't even grant people appeals. So you can pretty much guarantee that, hey, in a year that's really busy, like last year, where they're not giving appeals, all those people, those thousands of people who got denied, would have had it overturned on appeal because they are legal citizens who could go out and buy a gun. And that's an infringement. That's the government denying people their rights. Period. There's very few infringements on our rights bigger than that one right there. That's bigger than banning a certain type of gun or banning an accessory or anything like that. It's telling you you can't buy a gun. Sometimes, usually, when that person has no reason that they couldn't buy a gun. Now, this is where a lot of people start saying, but yeah, all the gangbangers and all the felons would be buying guns if we didn't have these background checks. Well, here's the thing. Gangbangers can buy guns if they're not felons. So they can buy guns anyway. It's felons that can't buy guns. And that itself shouldn't be a thing either. That's also an infringement on someone's rights. That's the government saying, you've committed a crime. We found you guilty of that crime. You served your time. Now you're a free citizen again, but you still can't buy a gun because we don't trust you. And that's the reason a lot of people use to justify being okay with the infringement of background checks. It's only affecting those criminals. It's only affecting the felons. But that's not true. Like I said, a lot of people are denied every year that are perfectly legal to buy a gun. Probably more people that are eligible to buy a gun. There's quite a bit of evidence that more people that are eligible to buy guns are actually turned down than there are people that are actually denied who even try to buy a gun through an FFL. So it's not accomplishing anything. If someone knows they're forbidden to buy a gun by the government, they'll buy a gun through other circumstances, private sales, etc. Which is why when people accept background checks, it's not only an infringement by telling you who can and can't own something, it's backdoor registration. Because they're going after private sales now, because everyone's using that whole, well, it makes perfect sense that everyone should have a background check to buy a gun. And then they go, oh, but what about those people that are buying at gun shows, that gun show loophole? Or what about people that are meeting in the Walmart parking lot to trade their own personal property? Well, they're not having a background check, so we got to have background checks. And that is for one thing and one thing only. It's not to stop crime. Because if someone was a criminal, they would get the gun another way because they'd find another criminal willing to sell them the gun. And if that was the case, prices would be high, guns would be flowing like honey to bad guys, because there are so many guns in this country, there's no way you're putting the genie back in the bottle. You just make them more enticing. It's kind of like the whole thing with the war on drugs. All we did was make drugs a bigger problem in this country than it ever was. So the background checks are not only an infringement by telling us who can and when we can, etc., who can and when we can buy a gun, they're also a backdoor registration because they want to get that on every gun. Because right now they could find a gun at a crime scene, go and say, okay, this gun was sold by this FFL to this person who sold it to this person, and now we don't have a record beyond that because this person doesn't remember who they sold it to. They don't like that. They want to have every gun in this country tied to a person because they want to know who they need to go after if they ever try to take guns, or they decide who's going to be an enemy of the state if things ever get really bad. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not someone who lives my life thinking that's going to happen. But when people start making lists, you got to wonder why they're making lists. And that is the main reason I don't like background checks, because it's an infringement. And I say no compromise. So if you're someone who wants to support background checks, don't look at me like I'm crazy because I don't want to. I think you're crazy because they're a huge infringement. And they seem to be an infringement people take. But they always say, well, there's a reason we take it, and I'll cover that in the next segment. You know, after doing my big rant there about why I don't like background checks, I want to talk about the number one reason people say, well, we have to have background checks. It's always the criminals. We got to keep guns out of the hands of the criminals. Or one, as if criminals are going to FFLs to buy their guns. And two, why? Why would we be keeping the guns out of hands of people who committed a crime but have served their time and are now out? I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but I want to go more into depth in this. It seems like a lot of people out there that are supposedly shall not be infringed, no compromise gun people who accept background checks, accept the infringement of background checks. They are okay with that because it keeps those nasty felons from owning guns. Well, here's the thing. If someone's been convicted of a crime, served their time, and they're back out, they're a free citizen. They should have their rights. And here's the thing. Here's the thing people will say. They'll say, yeah, but our prison system sucks, and people get out when they haven't been rehabilitated, and they reoffend, so we just can't let them have guns. It's just the reality, just for the safety of society. Well, I don't remember anything in the Constitution saying, you shall not be infringed unless it makes Billy down the street safer. But here's the thing about that. You're justifying an egregious violation of a constitutional right because we have a shitty prison system, a for-profit prison system that doesn't want to do its job. You don't commit another evil to rectify a misdeed, prison systems being run properly. You fix the problem. You fix the prison system. If someone's too dangerous to be out on the streets and have a gun, or a knife, or anything like that. Let's not forget that if someone's that dangerous and they have a lead pipe or a knife, they're really dangerous because it's the person, not the tool, that makes you dangerous. But if they're too dangerous to be out in society with a weapon, let's just say that, then they shouldn't be out of prison. They should still be in prison. And if prisons weren't full of low violence offenders, people who commit crimes like drug offenses, etc., who are easy to take care of and make the for-profit prison system lots of money because they don't need as many guards or as many restrictions or anything else, then if we have that problem, if we didn't have those people in prison, we'd be able to keep the people that commit crimes in prison. We wouldn't have to let them out on the streets. And if we made prisons about rehabilitation, like they're supposed to be, this is supposed to be punishment and rehabilitation. The goal of prison is supposed to be that they can function in society again when they come out. But instead, they throw, gym equipment at them and VCRs and TVs and, cable television, blah, 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 all this other stuff. Bring comedians in and give them shows. That's not what it's about. It's not supposed to be, let's just keep them entertained and keep them quiet so that we can suck our money off the taxpayers until this low-level offender is done with his time, and then we can send him back out with no lifeline, no training, no nothing, so he's just screwed, and he'll come back again, and we'll be able to do this all over again. He'll already know the rules, so we won't even have to retrain him. We'll make even more money. If we quit doing that, this would be a lot better system. We have a better prison system. I kind of lost my train of thought there. But that's what we need to stop doing. We need to stop letting people that are violent offenders out. Especially not because, we just don't have room. And because they're harder to take care of. And they're not as profitable. That's why they get let out. And we got to stop keeping people that are profitable and easier to keep care of in prison. We're making great strides right now towards illegalizing marijuana and some other stuff. And I think everyone that's in any state jail right now where the state has legalized marijuana should be set free tomorrow and their record should be expunged. But still, if they've been in jail for any time, they're going to not be able to fit back into society. No training. They've had no jobs. They got no money. If they don't have family structure outside they can go live with, what are they going to do? They've got a record now that they're a felon. They're probably not going to be able to get a job. It's ridiculous. I think once someone serves their time, their record should be wiped clean. And if they're not fit to go back in society, they should stay in prison. There should be a lot of people rotting till they die in prison because they are not rehabilitatable. I don't think that's a word, but you know what I mean. So I'm not above making up a word every now and then. But we don't justify infringing on the Second Amendment because the prison system is broken. We fix the prison system. And all we got to do to fix it is quit making it all about profit. Quit making it all about low-level drug offenders. Quit putting career-hardened criminals back onto the street because they're too much trouble in prison. And that is a thing that happens, believe it or not. They look at bottom lines, they're like, this guy is always causing trouble. The riot team's working on blah, blah, blah. And they put those people out on the street faster because they're not making a profit on them. I've seen that happen multiple times. I've listened to many people who work in jails and in the prison system say they do this time and time again. They figure they'll go out on the street, they'll either reoffend or they'll get themselves killed. Problem solved. That's what they're thinking. But they never think that maybe they'll take someone with them when they do. So, and it's all about profit. And I know I'm rambling here, but this gets me a little heated because the way our prison system is a travesty. And it's being used as an excuse to violate our rights. To say, there's too many dangerous people that get let back out on the streets, so we got to infringe on your rights. No. If you want to let those people back out on the streets, then you have to deal with the fact that they're out there. And that they're free citizens and that they can exercise their rights. And if they're not safe to be out there, then how about you start putting them away for good? And when they are in there, if they're salvageable, make it about rehabilitation, get them job training, teach them a skill. When they get out, maybe they'll have a blue-collar certificate, like a plumbing certificate or something. They'll have an expunged record and they can go get a job. Maybe even work to where there's a halfway system so people who come out of jail on probation or come out of jail after serving their sentence and now they have their training certificates, etc. They've got a halfway system until they get a job. That would cost us way less than the war on drugs has cost us. So let's fix the prison system because that is not a justification for violating our constitutional rights. It is not reason for us to be okay with being told who can buy a gun and when they can buy a gun by the government, who's not supposed to be involved in our right to keep and bear arms, and it doesn't justify a backdoor registration. I see so many people that are scared by the boo, felons will have guns, that they're like, oh my God, then it's okay to infringe on here. Take my Second Amendment rights because I don't want felons having guns. We need to get over that. That's just a scare tactic. If we call their bluff and say, stop letting felons that are not redeemed and are not safe for society back out on the street, or we'll start voting in new politicians. And let's take the big money out of our prison system. Prison is not supposed to be about profit. It's supposed to be about punishment and rehabilitation. So if we do those things, maybe we won't have a problem. But to be honest, I haven't even seen a problem anyway. Not people buying guns from FFLs, etc., that are felons. Because here's another thing, too. If someone is an ex-felon and they get stopped from buying a gun by the background check, that doesn't mean there's a crime stopped. They might have had a felony when they were 19 years old. Now they're a 45-year-old person who's a perfect law-abiding citizen with a family and everything, and now they've just been denied because they have a felony record. What has that stopped? Any crimes? No. Background checks are ridiculous. They are an enormous infringement on our rights. And this boogeyman of felons getting guns that they keep using to shove this thing down most people's throats, including NRA, big gun channels, people that are supposedly big Second Amendment supporters who won't dare say, oh, I don't support background checks because they're afraid they'll look like monsters because then those felons will get guns. We just need to stop it because, like I said, this is the biggest load of shit we've ever been sold, and too many people are willing to eat it just because they've been frightened just enough by the government to accept the fact that it's okay to infringe on my rights when it's for public safety. Hey, I know those last two segments were very rambly and kind of ran together and went all over the place, and I was just kind of kerfuddled most of the time, but that's because it's a topic I feel very strongly about. But now I want to move on to a topic that's a little lighter. I want to combine two things here. I want to talk guns again today, a little gun talk, but I want to do it while answering a question from someone who watches my channel. They told me tonight in the live chat that they had just purchased their very first gun, their first gun ever. And it was a .38 Special lightweight revolver from Smith & Wesson. And now they said that after they bought this, some of their friends that they've told have said, you shouldn't have even bought a gun. .38 Special is useless. You might as well just not carry, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard the spiel before. So I wanted to answer the question is .38 Special useless? Is it a bad gun to carry? Are little .38 Special stub noses worthless? And to that I'm going to say that is fucking stupid. I would much rather have a .38 Special 5-shot snubby J-frame on me any day of the week than I would a pointy stick or a hammer. Mainly because I don't feel like running up to someone to hit them with a hammer. You can take care of bad guys from a distance with a gun. And .38 Special, although it's not the most powerful round in the world, I'll admit that, it's still competent. And if you get a good loading with a good bullet design, it's very competent. Now, it is not as strong as 9mm, because the second part of their question was, what advantages does .38 Special have over 9mm? Well, the only advantage I could think that it has is that it can go in a revolver, and revolvers are the superior firearm, in my opinion. But other than that, none. A lot of people assume since it's a longer cartridge that it's more powerful than 9mm. It isn't. 9mm beats the daylights out of .38 Special. Even .38 Special plus P doesn't equal 9mm. So if you're talking about thinking you're getting more power going down to .38 Special, you're not. But you are getting a very small, easily concealed, very simple weapon that you know is going to be reliable. Just those little J-frame revolvers are rock solid. A lot of people carry them in their pockets because they're so small. But they're a very capable gun, a very nice gun, and they're an awesome gun to start with. This person was saying he wanted to conceal carry for the first time ever, and this is what he bought. It's a great gun for the first time concealment. Because it is so light, it is easy to carry, you might actually carry it. If you go with something bigger, like, well, everybody said I need a 20-shot 40 caliber pistol, so I bought this big thing, and you try to carry it, you might be like, this is just too uncomfortable, I just can't conceal this, and you'll give up, and you'll just never end up carrying. So in this case, having that small gun in a capable caliber can be way better than having a more powerful gun with more rounds in it, because you'll actually carry it. And then once you get adjusted to that, you can move up to something bigger, something more powerful, something bigger, heavier if you want to. You don't have to. That would serve you your whole life as far as I'm concerned. But it won't turn you off of guns right away. It won't turn you off of carrying right away like something bigger and heavier might be. So 38 Special, while not being the most ballistically impressive round, it's still very capable. It's not quite 9mm, but it's capable. And you can usually find it in a gun that you'll actually carry. And at the end of the day, the gun you carry is worth way more than the gun you don't. So 38 Special in my book is an awesome round. And when you put it in one of those little lightweight J-frames, that's an awesome gun for a beginner or anyone who just wants an easy to carry gun. Hey, I want to thank everyone for watching the show today. I hope you tune in again tomorrow. Before I go, I want to remind everyone that we are doing the FK Burno PSD fundraiser over on TYMPpistolproject.com. I said there was going to be 100 spaces available. If you go over to the website, you will see what I'm talking about the 100 spaces on the Good Karma list. Well, we're down to about 44 spaces now. In one day, we got rid of 56 of the spaces. So if you want to get on that list, go over there now. We're well on our way towards, I hope to earn a minimum of $10,000 for the Fur Friends Animal Rescue. And we're getting close to that already. We're already at like $7,500. So we're going to do that and maybe then some, which is good because I just got word from them today that they are trying to import a very emaciated mother with some puppies. When they sent me the pictures, I just about cried on the spot. She's in a kill shelter right now, and they're talking about putting her down and her puppies because she's so malnourished that it's going to take a lot of care to get her back on her feet and take care of the puppies. But Fur Friends Animal Rescue is like, not on our watch. We're going to rescue her, bring her back here, take care of her. So they're in the process of trying to do that right now, and unfortunately this takes money. You have to pay the expenses of the shelters. You have to be able to show you can pay these medical bills. You have to be able to do this. You have to be able to do that. Just so, and that's for a reason. So shelters don't think people are just taking dogs and take them out and doing bad things to them. So there's a good reason why it costs to get the dogs out of the shelter. But they have to come up with this money. They have to be able to show the resources. So this is going to go a long way to helping. And if we can do a little over my set goal, that'll be awesome because I really want to help this mother and her puppies. I can't look at that face and not want to help her. So please go over and get on the Good Karma list or just donate one of the smaller amounts to get yourself in the running for a free Lobo holster or some free ammo. Get yourself a patch, a pin, etc. And as usual, I also want to remind everyone that this channel is 100% viewer funded. So if you want to go over and become a patron, please do that. But right now, my main concern is go over, participate in the Fur Friends Animal Rescue. We can always do Patreon later. Right now, if you've only got $5 to give, don't give it to me. Give it to Fur Friends Animal Rescue. They can use it more than I can. Well, they'll at least put it to better use than I would. I would just blow it on, I don't know, bubble gum and new sneakers or something. I don't know. What do people spend money on nowadays? I forget. But like I said, thanks everyone for coming. Please go over there, participate in the Fur Friends Animal Rescue, and hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow. And until then, as far as the state of the world today out there, it is what it is, and sometimes it's depressing when I see some of the things that are done to these dogs, but like I say, it is what it is. But in the future, if we all work together and we all try to do the right thing and we try to make progress, what it will be in the future is better. I am a grown-ass man.